we look ahead to the second half, let's make some bold predictions. Let's make some things that make you a little uncomfortable. Maybe if you were honest, you don't 100% believe these things, but if you had to go out on a limb, this is the limb that you would choose to go out on. Blake, I'll start with you. You are our resident bold prediction guy, some of them good, a la Walker Buehler. So as you look ahead to this last 65 games, I believe that the Dodgers have this season, give me a bold prediction about this team that you've got cooking.
So everyone might not think it's bold. We debated this a little, but I'm going with Bobby Miller still starts a playoff game for this team. He, of course, has been terrible this year. He has like a 10 ERA and got sent to AAA, but I think he still has the stuff and upside needed for this team to kind of jump back into the rotation and help them out down the stretch here. I think it might be a little tougher for him to get in, especially if they make some trades and stuff. Like maybe they go get a Screwball that we talk about later, or Crochet or something like along those lines. And then maybe Kershaw comes back and then you're kind of getting a little bit deeper of a rotation there. But I still think Miller, when he's right, is one of their best 3 or 4 pitchers. So I think he's going to be in that playoff rotation.
Matt, you were one of the ones initially that didn't feel like this was that bold of a prediction. So take me through your thought process. Obviously, a lot of confidence that you've still got in Bobby Miller.
Yeah, I mean, it's confidence in Miller to turn around, and it's also sort of just by default, he's going to be in the rotation, just like the Dodgers. As much as I think that they probably will trade for 2 starting pitchers, that's not a guarantee. I think, the safer bet is definitely 1. And so there aren't going to all of a sudden be, I think, 4 or 5 other options when you factor in health, potential acquisitions that end up ahead of Bobby Miller come the playoffs. And so that's why, I gave Blake a little bit of a hard time and said, well, yeah, of course he's starting a playoff game.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're going to go trade for 2 aces at the deadline. Clayton Kershaw is going to come back in rare form. Walker Buehler's going to be back. They're going to have 8 starters, I think, ahead of Bobby Miller by then. So I'm with you, Blake, and then it's a bold prediction. So I like it. Anthony, let's go to you next. What's your bold prediction for the Dodgers second half?
I'll say the man that we wanted all DFA'd, regardless of his contract situation, the guy who we wanted to round peg square hole into the minors, even though he doesn't have any options. Chris Taylor will be in the lineup as a starter for game 1 of the postseason this year.
Do you want to go one step further? Tell us what position he's playing in that game.
I will, actually. I've thought about that. I didn't know if you were going to ask, but I've thought about it. Second base.
Okay. Wow. So this is going directly, I believe, into conflict with. So Matt, I'll just let you make bold prediction for yourself, because I think these two are very related.
Yeah. So full disclosure, my first choice was that the Dodgers, my bold prediction was going to be that they don't trade for a shortstop. All 3 of you shot it down and said, well, no, like that's not bold at all. And I thought it is from the standpoint that they need to trade for a shortstop. So that's my actual choice. But for the sake of this show, the one that I'll give you guys is Gavin Lux starts at least 5 postseason games for the Dodgers.
Okay. So talk me through it, Matt, because, well, first of all, when you sent me this, you said more than 5 games, which would take them into the second round of the postseason. So I was kind of confused about how deep we were going. That was going to be a double bold prediction from you. But so you've got Lux making a start. Obviously, Anthony's got Chris Taylor starting at second base. Both of those things, I mean, I suppose there's a world where they both have, and I don't think any of us want to live in that world. But talk me through, Matt, why you believe that about Gavin. Is it belief in him giving some semblance of productivity down the stretch, or is it just a matter of like there's no other option?
I'll just say yes. Is there an all of the above
all right.
option I can check off? Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of, like I said, of the belief that they're not going to trade for a shortstop, and so that keeps Mookie Betts at shortstop. I think, I could see a scenario where Anthony's saying Chris Taylor starts at second base. Sure, like maybe it is game 1 or a game 2. Or I think, Anthony, did you say game 1 specifically?
Yeah, game 1, okay. He will be in the lineup. And this assumes Max comes back, right?
Yeah,
that's true. So, even if Chris Taylor starts game 1 at second base, I think we're still going to see a steady dose of Gavin Lux throughout the playoffs. And yes, maybe a secondary bold prediction to that is that the Dodgers advance to the NLCS this year. I know that hasn't been guaranteed the last 2 years. So maybe I have 1A and 1B with those. And I guess technically 1C, because my first choice you guys all hated.
Blake, let me give you a third option here. If you had to pick Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux, or Mookie Betts starting at second base for the Dodgers in the NLDS, with Miguel Rojas remaining at shortstop and Max Muncy at third base, which of those three would you choose as the scenario you think would happen?
I think Miggy Rowe at short with Mookie at second is the most likely one. And then Chris Taylor kind of moving into a platoon role in the outfield. Because I do think Chris Taylor has figured it out a little more. And I do have some belief that he's going to keep it going. My thing with Gavin Lux is if he's playing 5 playoff games for the Dodgers, I don't think they're playing 5 playoff games. So I just have a hard time buying into that one.
I had to do something bold. I had to do something bold. You guys didn't like my first one, so I had to go way out there.
Anthony, real quick, you pick Chris Taylor. Is it a belief in Taylor turning it around? Is it Gavin Lux struggling, like some combination of the two? Where are you at on those two players individually?
Yes.
Okay, like you're going with the Matthew Moreno answer.
Yeah, no, look, I think he's figured it out enough that he's an option now. I'm with Blake. I think that even if he doesn't, he might not hit 325 for the rest of the season, but I think he's figured it out enough to the point where you can keep running him out there and be okay with it versus like the first 2 months where he was hitting 115 or whatever it was. And then also that Lux is terrible. We're not sure about Max Muncy, and I'm not sure that they are going to be able to trade for the outfield help or depth, I should say, that they might need. And so I think Chris Taylor falls back into the role we've been accustomed to seeing him in, where he sort of plays all over the diamond. I happen to think if Max is back, game 1, Lux is on the bench and Chris Taylor plays second base, at least for the first game.
Well, and if that's the case, I'm wondering, is Lux even on the bench? Is he on the playoff roster? If he's not the starting second baseman, would be another conversation. Let me throw my bold
prediction. Maybe they'll put him in
center
field.
What's that? Yeah,
maybe they'll put him in center field.
Jeez, for the love, please no. So let me throw mine out there. And again, as always, we appreciate everybody on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter that is joining us live. This is going to be a fun show. Mine, I don't think is that bold, but hearing the discourse, and I know at least one person on here is probably going to think this is pretty bold. I think Clayton Kershaw is going to be awesome. Like, I just think he's going to be great. I think he's going to come back from shoulder surgery and be awesome.
Define awesome.
Like let's say sub 3.5 ERA.
Oh, that's not awesome.
Well, I mean, Blake, you think he's going to, so Anthony, you agree? You think he's going to be a sub 3.5 ERA?
Yeah, actually, I do think that. I think he'll come back fresh for that stretch of the season. I think he'll be good. I don't think he'll be great. This is just my Kershaw prediction. I think he'll be good, not great. And for him, that's easily a sub 3.5 ERA. I wouldn't call awesome would be a sub 2 ERA considering what he has been the last couple seasons. He's been pretty goddamn good.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, you think 3.5, sub 3.5 ERA for Clayton Kershaw? Do you think he does that? I was trying to look it up. I think there's like 30 starting pitchers in Major League Baseball with a sub 3.5 ERA. I mean, I think it'll be lower, but I threw that number out. Do you think 3.5? Do you think he goes over under 3.5 ERA for Kershaw?
It's under. I could see 3 to 3.5, but I agree with Anthony. Like, that's not necessarily awesome. I think that's more like very good. And it's only very good because Kershaw's age and he's coming off shoulder surgery. If it was like normal circumstances, I would say like, okay, that's a good to okay season. And now I feel like in a minute or two, Blake's going to fact check me with, well, the average ERA in baseball now has jumped up to this.
Well, I mean, let me throw this out there. Do you know what Tyler Glasnow's ERA is right now?
3.
I know it's going to start with a 3. Yeah,
it's 3.5. It's 3.47.
But he's also gotten shelled like 2 of the last 3 times he took the ball. So
no, and again, that's not an it's just putting in context 3.5.
Yeah.
I'll go bold. I think it's going to be sub 3. I think it starts with a 2. How about that? Does that reach the Blake? I'll let you jump in before I give my Kershaw propaganda here, because I imagine you were the guy that was probably taking the over on 3.5.
I do think I would, and that's not really a knock on Kershaw. I have concerns about coming back from shoulder surgery for any pitcher. It's just, it takes a while for them to do that, and even if they do come back, it's not always totally there yet. So like if he has a sub 4 ERA, I think I'd be very happy with the results we get from him, because the Dodgers kind of need that right now. So like maybe he's right around 3.5 or something. I could see up to like 3.8 even, and I think we'd all be happy with that. If he gives anything more than that, like, yeah, that'd be great. But even if we're talking about him as like a 3.5, 3.6, 3.7 ERA pitcher, that's still going to be really valuable because that's better than league average.
There it is.
Puts you like
Blake's making room for his Bobby Miller prediction.
Yeah, I mean, there's room for both of them to start at this point, but like that's putting you in the top, maybe like 50% of pitchers there, 40% even probably if you're right around there. So I think that would be a really good outcome for him coming off surgery.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, so qualified pitchers right now, there's 68 guys who technically qualify, and 30 of them are sub 3.5. So to Blake's point, obviously there's a correlation between innings pitched and whether or not you're good also. So that plays into it. If you're terrible, like some guys, you're not going to make it. But my take on Kershaw is just simply that the same thing I've said over and over on the show. He's never not been good at any point, and I know he's coming off shoulder surgery, but like the velo has never really been his thing. It's all just built on like preparation, compete, pitchability, all of that. And I think Kershaw's going to have that in spades. I don't care about his rehab starts, although his last one was good, in case anyone was wondering. So yeah, I'm buying all the Kershaw stock. I think he's going to be awesome. And that's my bold prediction. Let's do a couple rapid fire things. I've got 4 questions here, and people in the chat, please chime in. I'll throw some of your answers up here. I'm going to ask 4 questions, and the first one's going to be a total wins, and I'm just going to ask for an over-under, okay? So currently the Dodgers are on pace for 93.5 wins. That does not mean they could get a half win, to be clear. That's just the math on winning percentage times 162. I'm going to bump that number up, Matt. I'll start with you. 96.5 is going to be my number for the over-under. They're on pace for 93.5. There's 65 games, I believe, left in the season. Over or under 96.5 wins for the Dodgers this year?
I'm going over. They always find a way, like as much as they sort of struggled, not sort of, they limped into the All-Star break. They're dealing with injuries. Famous last words, they're bound to get healthy, at least healthier at some point. And we've seen this team capable of going on, crazy runs. And so I think that'll end up propelling them over. I think what'll be interesting to see is if they get to 100, or maybe Anthony and Blake will have a number. I'm not sure. I think 100 might be their ceiling, but definitely over 96.5.
Blake, 96.5, over or under?
I think I'm also taking the over for a lot of the reasons Matt said. Like every year, this team just kind of finds a way to go on a streak where they win 30 of their 35 games or whatever it is. So I think they get to that mark. This team is too talented to not win a lot of games. And I know 96 is still like a lot, but they always find a way to get to that 100 mark. And Mookie comes back. Maybe once he comes back, you're going to get Glasnow back, potentially Yamamoto and Kershaw and some other guys. And I think when they just start to get healthy and after the trade deadline, upgrade their bench and their bottom of their lineup, I think they can just take off and go on a run here.
Anthony, over or under real quick, 96.5 wins.
Yeah, I'll go over. I think, okay. I think 100, like
wow,
99.5 for me is my personal over under, right around there. I think they'll get healthy. It can't get much worse in that area. They will go on a run. They're too good, too talented not to, like Blake said. And I think if I remember correctly, the schedule's going to do them some favors, and especially later in the year where some teams are out of it that they're playing and may not be running out, their best lineups and things like that. And I think they can eat on that. So I would say over.
So to get to 100 wins, they would have to go 44-21 down the stretch, would be a 68% winning percentage, which for context, the highest winning percentage of the Phillies was 64.5 heading into the All-Star break. So that would be a massive run for the Dodgers to get to 100. I am also taking the over, as anybody who's watched the show knew optimistic Jeff was going to be taking the over on this Dodgers team. But there we go. So that number wasn't that number's too low if everybody's taking the under or the over, excuse me. All right. Next one, yes or no, needle moving trade made by the Dodgers at the deadline. Let's go reverse order this time. So Anthony, yes or no, the Dodgers make a needle moving trade. So just for context, that would be a Luis Robert, a Randy Arozarena, Crochet. Like Tommy Pham does not qualify for this category. Okay. Yeah. So a guy an all-star. Yes. Apologies to Scott and Blake. All-star level player added to the Dodgers roster via the trade deadline. Anthony, yes or no?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that that guy's available. And if he is, I think they're going to have to pay a tax on it. And I don't think that they're going to go that far. I think they would rather improve on the fringes than add another superstar type player. And I think, I honestly think that's enough if they're healthy.
Okay. Blake, yes or no?
I'll say yes. I think they have the prospect capital needed to get it done, and you're probably going to run into a spot of like you have too many pitching prospects. I know this year it's hard to say that with all the injuries, and you can never have enough pitching, but they have a lot of guys in the upper levels of the minor leagues who are about ready. And like this is the year they were waiting for, that they were going all in on, planning on. They punted last year. They went all in on this offseason. Now, like, you have to kind of go out and complete the job there and go get another star, push them over the top. I think they get something done. I don't think it's going to be like Screwball type, but maybe a Crochet, maybe a Rosarena type player. So I think they'll be aggressive and try and get something done, and I think they land someone.
Okay, Matt, yes or no? Needle moving trade.
Yes, with your, like you said, an all-star player. So
yeah, Javi Baez doesn't count, to be clear.
Well,
he doesn't. Former all-star, not a guy. Dallas Keuchel also does not count in this category.
I still say yes, and maybe not an all-star within the last like 2 or 3 years.
Okay, I think yes. I think the Dodgers make a move. I think, to Blake's point, they're going to cash in some chips and go for it. Okay, 2 more questions here. MVP of the Dodgers in the second half is going to be who? Blake, I'm coming to you first. We're pretending in this category that pitchers are capable of winning the MVP. All right. So this isn't how it's traditionally been voted on, but the most valuable player for the Dodgers over the last 65 games is going to be who?
I mean, pitchers might still be possible to win it, but they're not, because Ohtani's on the team. And I think it's clearly going to be Ohtani, unless we want to remove him and like make us ask a different one here.
Okay.
But
that's fair. I'm going to say Freddie Freeman. I think Freddie's got a run in him, goes on a heater. We've seen him do it before, sometimes against the Dodgers, sometimes for the Dodgers. So give me Freddie Freeman having an epic second half of the season. Matt, I'll come to you next.
Freeman was my choice. I'll go, like Roy said, I'll go Teoscar Hernandez. I think he maybe rides the wave from squeaking by with his home run derby win and just uses that momentum.
Okay, Anthony, you don't have to go different here, so you could pick whoever you want. But give me your MVP for the second half.
No, yeah, I had somebody in mind as soon as you asked the question, and I'm with Blake. The qualifier is Shohei is their best player, and he probably will have the best second half of the season. But I think the way they get over that win total is Glass now he's lights out again. Yeah. And I think when you look at what he's done post All-Star break come end of September, you're going to go, that was the guy. That was a big part of the reason why I think it's Glass now.
Okay. All right. Last one here. And this is a slightly more complicated one. So I gave you a little bit of a heads up, but Dodgers make the playoffs, the NLDS, not the wild card nonsense. I want you to tell me games 1, 2, and 3, who the Dodgers starting pitchers are. Bonus points if you want to go in order, if you're just thinking up 3 names. Now they very likely will go to a 4-man rotation if they get there. I'm asking for 3 names. Your 3 starters. I'll go first on this one. I think it's Glasnow game 1. I think it's Gavin Stone game 2. And I think it's Clayton Kershaw in game 3. So I'm not including a traded starting pitcher in there. So I'll go those 3. Glasnow, Stone, Kershaw are going to be my 3. Matt, I'll come to you next.
I'll do in order: Glasnow, pitcher they acquire at the deadline, Kershaw, Stone.
Okay. So you're going for a 4th. I like that.
Overachiever.
That's an overachiever. That's why he's the boss around here, Anthony. Yeah. What about you, Anthony? Give me your 3.
I think it's going to break a certain way, so I'll mix it up a little bit. Yamamoto 1.
Okay, because I was going to say we haven't talked about whether or not Yamamoto's coming back. Obviously, he's not on my list and he's not on Matt's list.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you're going Yamamoto game 1. You just said Glasnow's the MVP, and you're going Yamamoto game 1. I like this.
Yeah, I mean, just give me 15 seconds. The season and the way they start, it's going to break in a way where they like Yamamoto going in game 1 for some reason. I'm going to put that out there. Then Glasnow will go game 2. They'll both start at Dodger Stadium. And then I think Kershaw goes game 3.
Okay, so we got Yamamoto, Glasnow.
Because they're going to tell us that they want a veteran presence on the road.
Okay, and Blake, give us your 3.
Well, the issue here is it's going to be a 5-man rotation that they're going to go with. They're not dropping it down to 4 because they're keeping everyone on their short rest still throughout that. And that's because Yamamoto is going to come back, but he's starting game 3. Dave Roberts has already said, Yamamoto's not going to pitch like twice in a series, so that eliminates him from game 1 or game 2 for me, because then you can't bring him back on short rest or normal rest or whatever in those later games. So we're going Glass now, then Crochet. I'll even throw my trade name in there. Yamamoto, Bobby Miller, Gavin Stone. Those are my 5.
I like it. Yeah, I think if I had to go for Glass now, Stone, Kershaw, I do think they trade for a pitcher. So yeah, give me Skubal somewhere in there. He wouldn't be I'd change it around. Glass now, Skubal, Stone, Kershaw. Give me those 4.
And I think based on sort of that logic, Yamamoto can still start game 1. But like Blake said, they're going to go with, if they go with the 5-man rotation, he doesn't have to start twice in that series if necessary. Also, I don't believe anything Dave Roberts says when it comes to how they're going to use these guys. I've covered this team for way too long. And we've seen them do things that like will put your jaw on the floor. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I don't trust anything that he says in July when it comes to October.
I think that one, I mean, and like there is reason to be a little skeptical of Dave. I think that one though is probably going to be true, unless like if they're in the World Series
too. But like Blake said, they're going to go to a 5-man. So if Yamamoto, it doesn't matter what number game Yamamoto starts, he's not going to start twice in any series.
Yeah. So I agree. Yes. Then maybe I agree with that, and I think that's what I believe. Dave, like when Dave said, like Yamamoto's just a 1 start per series thing. I think the only way that sort of changes is if it's like game 1 of the World Series and then they get to a game like 6 or 7. I think at that point it's like, hey, this is the end of our season. We'll push him back. But honestly, all of this is moot because Yamamoto's not pitching again this season anyway.
Yeah. And I think, the last point I'll make on this is that, and the reason why I say I don't trust it is because we've seen them make these proclamations during the summer, and then come the fall, their backs get against the wall. We all know why, or, all of this stuff. And then all those plans get thrown out the window and the papers get shredded up, and they just look into the clubhouse and they go, who's healthy enough?
Yeah. Here's the ball landing, Mac, baby. Go get it.
I personally think they tend to panic when it comes to when they get into October with their pitching plans. Sometimes it's very justifiable, and other times it's a little bit of a brain buster. I will say I do think they really do their best to limit Yamamoto, but I'm not writing that in stone.